I'm Dr. Brandon Krapf, and we're at Trusted Smiles in Westbury.
What do you love about dentistry?
A lot of things. I worked as a sales rep in the dental world and got my exposure to dentistry that way. And I got to observe some great surgeons at work through the years before I went to dental school. And I only half joke that I went to dental school really so that I could do surgery and do dental implants. And that has certainly been a passion throughout my career.
So the change from medical sales to dentistry is a big one.
Yes.
And that was driven by the surgical side, the interest in the surgical side?
I'd say so. Because my product, so it was a dental implant that I sold, so I worked mainly for a Swiss company, and I spent a lot of time with periodontists and maxillofacial surgeons and specialists that really spend the bulk of their time doing surgical things, and I just really loved watching them work. And for a few years I started to have this niggling feeling like I was gonna not want to be on the sideline for the rest of my life. I made the decision to start my pre-dental courses when I was 28, and I was lucky enough to get into Melbourne Dental School when I was 30. So I started as a 30-year-old, and my classmates, which were average 23, 24 years old, had a nickname for me that was Grandpa.
That's harsh.
It is harsh.
Brutal.
It is harsh.
Yeah. So you were in Melbourne, and did you finish in 2015?
Yep. Yes, so when I finished in 2015, I took two jobs. One was the job I imagined on Collins Street in Melbourne, the Paris end of Collins Street, one of the dental buildings I had visited clients in when I was a rep. And the other was in Deloraine, Tasmania, which I had only visited Tassie for holidays previously. And very quickly, I was just enjoying the work in Tasmania so much more. And I just noticed that when I was out and about in the town at lunch, I was seeing my patients and feeling like I had a appreciation for the work I was doing. And in Melbourne, I was just on the treadmill with patients that didn't seem to have a lot of appreciation. So when my wife and I got pregnant with our third child, we decided to relocate and make it permanently Tassie.
And that was 2016?
End of 2016, yeah.
End of 2016. And can you talk about the team that you've built here?
Yeah.
Numbers and where they've come from?
So we now have this practice and another one in Hobart, so if you span across both, but approximately 20 of us all together between clinicians, reception team, and the nursing staff. So the team is gradually, bit by bit, grown. I would say my philosophy towards how to best run a dental practice is very much shaped by that experience, having been in lots of different dental practices when I was a sales rep before I studied. And it quickly became apparent to me that the core strength of delivering a really good service for a patient rested more so in having an excellent team than in having the world's most exceptional clinicians. And so that has always been an emphasis. And the clinicians and I here, we are all spending a lot of time and money on constantly trying to improve our craft and continually update and train and those kinds of things. But if you ask me to pick what are you most proud of, it would be the team here and the support that's all around the clinicians.
Some of the challenges with running a dental practice or surgery is about the extensive procedures that are required to make sure everyone is healthy and safe and that side of things. And the varying levels of equipment and the cost associated with that. What are some of the challenges that you've found?
You raise a good point that I think probably vast majority of patients aren't aware of. You go into a medical GP practice and they need a desk and a prescription pad. Because dentistry is procedural, there's a big capital investment. And I specifically remember in 2020, I was signing away my life to all these future loans for equipment that I needed to last for 10 years and more in the midst of lockdown and that kind of thing. It turns out 2021 was actually good for us in dentistry in Tasmania. But it's a significant investment, and you don't get to know before you take the leap of faith whether or not it's going to work. I can say we were just very fortunate that the town of Westbury, broader Meander Valley, we got a lot of support from the community. A lot of people were willing to come give us a try and give us a good response. So that sort of helped overcome that. But it's definitely the difference between equipment that really doesn't do world-class dentistry and the equipment that helps you achieve world-class dentistry is not that much over a 10-year span. My philosophy was we tried to really have the best of everything right at the outset, without knowing how busy we were going to be, but it all ended up okay in the end.
How do people find you? How have you found that people find out about you?
In a small town, a new dental practice opening is actually something that's exciting. And we did have a practice launch and all those kinds of things. Very quickly, we got to the books being pretty busy here. And so that was very much organic, word of mouth. We have expanded the scope of our practice over time into some more complex surgical reconstructive sort of thing. And the net that we cast to is a bit wider than it was in the early days. So,
as in regionally?
Regionally, yeah. We now have patients that come for this surgical sort of work really from all over Tasmania. And so we've gone from there was a weekend that I walked all around Westbury, did 18 Ks doing letter drops. And so very much word of mouth, that kind of thing, to where now we are finding, and of course the world's changing around us, that we need to have a better online presence and social media and all these kinds of things, because there's a certain portion of the population, that's how we need to engage. And my first degree was in business, but I graduated 2003. So, Facebook was a very new concept in those days. So these are things that I'm having to learn as we go along, to be there, to be present for patients in the way that they most want to access us.
What you've done here, building the team, is different to, say, corporate dentistry and the way that some dentist practices operate. Can you talk a little bit about what might be appealing for people to come here as opposed to maybe some others?
Look, I think there's space for many different practice philosophies, so I'm not saying mine is the universally right one. I think in my experience, the connection between the patient and the clinician has been a really important one. I think sometimes the corporates assume that it's just the dollars and cents that's the driver, and of course that's in the mix, that's part of it all, but that connection between patient and doctor is really critical. And then broader beyond that, we have patients calling up asking for a certain receptionist by name or a certain nurse by name. That tells me beyond the shadow of a doubt that patients are having connection to the whole team, and that's really how I would like it to be.
What are some memorable moments that you've had over the years?
Let's see, my now primary chairside and surgical nurse Ella, for our grand opening party, had to wear a giant tooth costume, so that's one that we still get giggles over. I think, we've had so many moments of patients that have come to us in dire straits in terms of where their oral health is at, and really very linked with that self-esteem and self-image and those things. And to see the moment when somebody goes from hiding when they smile, really showing any teeth, to big broad smile and light back in their eyes and those kinds of things. Those are the things I probably got into the sort of work that we're now commonly doing because I love surgery. But I think that's probably the more rewarding side of it now.
You mentioned the Hobart practice.
Yes.
What are the plans for the future?
I'm going to continue to split my time between the two practices. We realized about a third of our patients coming for rehabilitation and surgical work were coming already from that part of the state. So in a practical and ethical sense, we needed to offer those patients convenient maintenance and cleaning services long term, because of course the surgery needs to be done well, but the real key to success is the long-term care of these prosthetics and implants and things. So it went from, do we have a small footprint and maybe just myself and a hygienist, to no, we're going to have a fully functioning practice, so there'll be general dentistry there. And then even beyond that, we've built the capability to have GA and theater capacity in the facility. So I've been quite spoiled at this end of the state to have access to good operating theaters. At the southern end of the state, all of the operating theaters are really at capacity, and all the dental profession is struggling to get time in theater. So my hope is that it will benefit us and our patients, but the facility's there. So once I'm happy that everything's functioning well, that I can then offer that a bit broader to the dental community in Hobart.
Obviously, you've done a wonderful job building the practice up so well. Can you talk a little bit about the support that you've had from your family, Jasmine? girls?
Yes, so this is very much a family project and has been from the start. My 3 daughters were here at every stage of construction. They still, if I've got admin paperwork to do, they still love coming here on the weekends. So my girls are around all the time. I think in my case, and I can't speak for others, but I would not have been able to do what I have done professionally without the support of a really strong and independently very successful woman, because she has shouldered a lot of the mom responsibilities and the financial responsibilities, especially in the early days of the Westbury practice, and then again for the Hobart practice. Yeah, I'm extraordinarily lucky to have that support, and it's been a team effort. So I don't know if you notice the plaque that's outside as you come in, but I try to pay at least some respect to the fact that all the work we get the opportunity to do here would not be possible without Jasmine supporting me through the journey.
Favorite part of the Meander Valley?
The Western Tiers, if they count, is to be just within inside the. One of my anaesthetists got me started fly fishing a few years ago. I'm ashamed to admit I still have yet to catch a fish. I've got all the gear, but I have yet to catch a fish. But honestly, for me, the success of catching a fish is secondary to just to being out in natural beauty. And I've been to some of the really wonderful national parks in the US. Never have I been in places where you look around yourself, you see no evidence that humanity has ever existed. And getting that sort of sensation in the high country here, I just love it. That's my sort of grounding and centering sort of time.
Very nice, thank you.